Making a list of Pokemon that should get Mega Evolutions is pretty easy. You pretty much just scroll down, you go, that one, that could be cool as a Mega, and then you just kind of explore the possibilities from there. Now when it comes to Kanto, there are already 13 species of Pokemon that get Mega Evolutions, and it covers pretty much everything. Now we have Pokemon like Mega Kangaskhan, going from pretty much not viable at all to fairly ridiculous. We also have Pokemon like Mega Mewtwo getting 2 forms, so Legendary getting multiple Megas. Anything is really possible. Now when it comes to the list, I'm going to be basing off of design, because you gotta have a cool looking Pokemon for a Mega Evolution, as well as competitive stuff, as like, you know, it won't be too broken, or it will make a lot of sense to at least make this Pokemon competitively viable. And that'd be another good part, that this is one of the best reasons and best ways of bringing a Pokemon into competitive viability from relative obscurity and also fan service, that if the Pokemon is very favored, then why not give it a Mega Evolution to kind of play along with that. So number 10 on this list is going to be based off of just that random list of basic Pokemon from Kanto region. Now, in future generations, some of them have gotten evolutions, or they have gotten pre-evolutions and baby Pokemon, stuff like that. Also, Mega Pinsir is a thing, and no one really cares about Jinx, so it only leaves us with one option. Lapras. I think Mega Lapras would be one of the coolest designs, and we could do a lot of different things with it. That you really just take Lapras to the next level, and it's also pretty strong as it is, so make it either hit harder as a tanky Pokemon, just make it even tankier, could get fairly ridiculous, and it's also based off of Plesiosaur, so we just take it to the max with a ferocious dragon dinosaur kind of Pokemon, but also keep that elegance that Lapras has. And not to mention, you know, Lapras pretty well loved because of Ash's Lapras from the anime, so I think it makes a lot of sense to be on the list, especially just kicking off, starting to really introduce the ideas right here. And then number 9 can go and be Hitmonchan. So Hitmonchan can work for a Mega Evolution, and I think one of the biggest reasons why we can do Hitmonchan and not Hitmonlee, for example, is we have a Pokemon like Mega Glalie. Mega Glalie exists, but we don't have a Mega Frostlass, and it is a split evolutionary line that Hitmonchan comes from. Also, Hitmonlee, it's viable enough that if you get rid of Unburden, well, that's one of Hitmonlee's biggest strengths, that it actually lose power by gaining a Mega Evolution. That kind of takes away from it, that, you know, if you have an item and then you Hitmonlee into like Unburden shenanigans, you get a lot of speed and damage, that's going to be best for it. But Hitmonchan, it really doesn't have much going for it on the stats as is. It's kind of too slow, and it can really get blown up. It also doesn't have a lot of damage behind it, so adding 100 to the base stat total will make it viable. I mean, you just pour a lot of speed into this Pokemon, you know, make it a really agile fighter, give it some more strength, and then, I don't know, keep Iron Fist as an ability, and try to make it just a coverage sweeper, that if it outspeeds and it can land a super effective hit, it's good to go. Or it might also find like a nice Drain Punch in some strong neutral scenarios as well. And I couldn't really find a lot of designs for potential Mega Hitmonchan if I like looked it up, or even a Hitmonchan evolution. So let's just say something like Ryu that does a lot of damage and it's a punching Pokemon, then we'll be pretty good to go. Now number 8 will be Alakazam. Wait, Alakazam already has a Mega? Man, Alakazam got boned by the whole Mega Evolution thing. I mean, it's also not really that fair, because Alakazam only gains 90 base stat total when it goes into Mega. It's the only Pokemon to have this happen. Now, some people might say it's because that in the 6th generation, it got a buff to its special defense that you can see right here, 85 special defense to 95 special defense, and then that technically counts for the 10 points of Mega, but that's just not correct, because when we look at Mega Ampharos got a buff from 5th to 6th generation, but it also got the full 100 points when getting a Mega, so Alakazam just kind of got screwed over in the end, and that's why I'm like, I might as well kind of put it on the list, you know, make it like a relaunch, give it a new ability, give it some better stat distribution, do something, because without Life Orb, you know, it's just not going to really matter at all. And then regular Alakazam, it's already 120 base speed. Not many things are faster than it, and then you lose out damage by not having like a Choice Specs or a Life Orb. So we need to either give Alakazam like sheer force or do something, because it's just not that fantastic at all. Alright, going back to real Pokemon that haven't gotten a Mega Evolution yet, what about Persian? Persian is a very ferocious Pokemon in spirit, that, you know, it's Giovanni's pet. Now, maybe it's just me, but if you're the Pokemon of choice for an effective mob boss, I mean, Giovanni has limitless power and money, you should get a lot more representation. I think that that would work out really well, that we can see this Pokemon playing off of that jewel on its head, that maybe it can go into a crown or kind of pseudo tiara design, and then just be more powerful, be more of a threat. Persian's a mean Pokemon. If you see this thing interact in the anime, it doesn't care about you. It's a pretty mad cat, but at the same time, if it has that Mega Evolution, it would actually make a lot more sense. So the whole idea of the Pokemon would be a lot better, and there's a lot of people that like Persian. Getting a very powerful cat Pokemon in the game would work out. I mean, Meowth is a pseudo mascot that, you know, since he can talk, you can get on his emotions, and you really feel for the guy being on Team Rocket, so it all comes together, and then it would make sense to have Persian be Mega. Now, another Pokemon that would be really awesome to get a Mega Evolution would be Farfetch'd. Now, the reason I think Farfetch'd deserves a Mega Evolution is that it has personality. That this shouldn't be a Pokemon that just kind of cast aside, that it should be brought into either competitive relevance, or it should also just make a lot more sense being a Pokemon getting brought up, that it uses that stick as a sword, that stick means more to it than its entire life. It's kind of like this culinary joke, but it can also be taken seriously at the same time, and a Mega Evolution work out for that really well. Now, this Pokemon has been a desired Mega, that there is a fake leak about it, that there's not really too many Pokemon on this list that have been tried to like pass off as a fake scan for a Pokemon, and even then there's other design ideas that you just go like stick samurai Pokemon that really just wants to beat up on things. So either Farfetch'd needs an evolution, or it can also get a Mega, and I personally really like the design on the left, that, you know, kind of like this larger, more relaxed kind of, I would say, experienced Japanese archetype kind of idea. It seems like that design's kind of like, let me finish my sake, and if you get in the way, then I'm gonna have to slap you around, because remember, I have an experience. I'm like a pseudo, like I could feel like just a very laid-back master in a way would work out, and then just goes and beats things up with a stick, but becomes a lot more of a threat because of the Mega Evolution, and that'd be pretty awesome. As for number 5 on this list, I'm going to have to put Mew, because Mew probably makes some of the most sense to get a Mega Evolution out of any Pokemon. If Mewtwo can get a Mega, then Mew has to get a Mega, because Mew contains the genetics of every Pokemon. That's DNA exists throughout everything because it's the ancestor of all Pokemon. So if you can clone a Pokemon from Mew, and then it has Mega potential like Mewtwo, that means Mew has that Mega potential, so Mew should get a Mega at some point. Now, as for the design directions that Mew can take, there's a lot of different ideas that actually work with the theme of Mew. Like this idea right here, I really like it because it kind of plays on DNA. It plays on Mew containing the genetics of every Pokemon, while also having some kind of advanced guardian kind of feel. At least that's the vibe I get looking at this design right here. They, you know, has psychic powers. It still feels like a benevolent, cool little bro, but also has a lot of power, and then its tail does the double helix thing, since having a really long tail is very iconic to Mew as well, so we can keep that and then really make it work out. Also, this design might be my favorite, because the bubble. Mew's bubble is another very iconic thing about Mew, and this seems like really patient. That, you know, Mew just kind of unleashes some extra power contained inside the bubble, crosses its arms, and then it waits. And it's like, you know what, I have tons of power, I'm ready to do whatever I need to do. So I like that patience behind it. I also really like the artist, because look at this right here. Please download for full high quality, use as you like. Every artist needs to do this. Please be more direct about if we can use your art or not. Some people say no, and I respect that. Others say use as you like. This guy is worth the follow. This guy, you know, you're going to find links of all the ones I could find links to in the description, that if there was a direct source that I could trace, it's there. So there you go, you know, it's free promotion for the artist, and this guy is all cool about letting us use it, so my favorite of the entire list, because there was no trying to search for permission or anything like that. Also, another idea that Mew can take is just looking more powerful. You know, you give it wings, you give it claws, you kind of make it feel like it's more ready for combat, and I really like this idea. You know, it has a little bit of cuteness to it, but also has some power, and Mew can really take any one of these directions and make a lot of sense. Alright, number 4 on this list is going to be Snorlax. I mean, Snorlax getting Mega Evolution is something that people have really been thinking about as a possibility since 4th, 3rd generation, since for a very long time. You know, it's like Snorlax needs an evolution in its own way. While it already is a massive Pokemon, it doesn't seem like you can take it further. It does seem like there is some extra room for Snorlax to be more competitively viable, also just make a bit more sense. Now, with a Mega Evolution, it can kind of go crazy. We could either make it a more tanky Pokemon, or just have it wake up and then get absurd amounts of power and just destroy everything. So I think there's a couple of ideas that Mega Snorlax can really work out with. Also, just throughout the years, Snorlax has technically been evolving in the way that sprites line up, so, you know, maybe it's hinting at something. Maybe we'll actually get a Mega Snorlax, or at least a Snorlax evolution sometime soon. And then we have number 3 on this list, Mega Flygon. I don't care that Flygon isn't from Kanto, it's like the most wanted Mega. Fine, we'll do Dragonite, because Dragonite is also a really cool Pokemon for a potential Mega, because there's a lot of pseudo-legendaries that have already gotten Megas. We have Garchomp, we have Metagross, we have Salamence, we have Tyranitar. So Dragonite is probably due for a Mega Evolution pretty soon, and some of the designs I've seen are really cool. Then steps make it seem more powerful. It just looks like a cooler Dragonite that you really play on those features. You make it feel like a dragon, you maybe add some markings or you add some design elements. And what I really like is that you can feel the influences of its pre-evolution. That with Dragonair kind of coming through, that, you know, you give it more blue in its design, kind of play up with those balls and those rings and stuff. And now, boom, Dragonite could do a lot of cool things. Competitively, this Pokemon could get scary as well, that it's going to make you less reliant on weakness policy, but also give you a little less power as well. I'm thinking, could either keep multi-scale, or you could have some kind of other really crazy ability that works out. And if it isn't multi-scale, that means you could like Mega Evolve Dragonite and not have to worry about having to breed for a hidden ability or something like that. Either way, it can gain more power, Dragon Dance is going to be more impactful quicker, and it means that if your opponent's trying to avoid a weakness policy, you're still going to have a lot of power, and then you can really just destroy everything from there. Potentially add a new typing, maybe give it Aerialate, that way it can kind of fit in like Salamence and actually have something to do with its flying typing. Overall, Dragonite, it's a pretty awesome Pokemon. I feel it can just get a lot more intimidating by getting a Mega, and maybe just be a bit more respected, while also being a Pokemon that people already love. Number 2, Ninetales. The problem with Ninetales, and the biggest reason why it needs a Mega Evolution, is so that it can be competitive. Again, because in the 5th generation, you got the Drought ability. It's like, oh my goodness, Drought, we can actually bring Sun in a non-legendary battle. That's pretty... Oh, never mind, Mega Charizard Y came out. So, the existence of Mega Charizard Y pretty much just erased any chance of using Ninetales, and its stats, fairly subpar. So, if we can actually turn it into a sweeper, or give it something that causes threat, maybe a better ability, you know, you could actually, if you have it set Drought, and then you Mega Evolve into another ability, it's just free Sun, and that would be pretty cool. Also, Ninetales is a kitsune, that there's a lot of Japanese mythology and lore and all kinds of crazy stuff that travels throughout many cultures and gets all kinds of fan service and many representations, but Ninetales has kind of been forgotten as this really cool idea, so the design can really take that to the next level. Just like crazy fire beast kitsune Ninetales Fox that really takes it to the next level. And I would love to see a design really amp it up on a Ninetales, and then also have this Pokemon be usable once again. So there's some cool stuff that could be done. And again, Ninetales is a very loved Pokemon. It's a favorite for many people. So having it get a Mega Evolution, it makes sense. And then before we get to our number 1 on the list, I do want to have some honorable mentions, Sandslash and Butterfree. Butterfree is kind of weird because I'm impartial. It would make sense as a Mega Evolution, like it would be pretty cool to have that, but I think it would be a competitive nightmare, that it quiver dances with more power and more speed. We can get into a crazy Volcarona scenario from there. Also, just because Beedrill got a Mega Evolution doesn't mean it has to get a Mega Evolution, so I'd rather see Butterfree just stay the way it is. Now, Sandslash. We have a Pokemon that has claws that should be ripping things apart while it's kind of shooting needles everywhere and then burrowing underground and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Give it a Mega, make it more proficient at that, and then maybe we'll see it in battle. That'd be pretty cool. As for number 1, though, we have Arcanine. That Arcanine, just like Ninetales, just like a lot of Pokemon's list, is loved by many people, and it has its own iconic parts of the Kanto region. Then when you think of the 1st generation of Pokemon, it's easy to think about Arcanine, it's easy to think about Growlithe, or this whole evolution, and then just this massive dog Pokemon that goes and tries to tear it up for you. Also, it just carries a lot of symbolism that, you know, you can ride this Pokemon, and it's just a nice beast that you take into battle. So giving it a Mega and just giving it extra power, you know, a little bit more competitively viable, a little bit more ferocious, and then also just a better design would really take it to the next level. And I think that that's a big part, that the 1st generation designs, some of them fairly plain, so you can use the Mega Evolution as a way to just kind of bring them into a really badass kind of scenario. Also, I think that with a Mega Arcanine, it would be like having a non-Mega Entei that's actually a lot cooler than Entei, and that'd be pretty awesome. Alright, so that's what we have. Tell me what you guys think about the list. Are there any Pokemon in the Kanto region that you want to see a Mega Evolution? Favorites from this region or future generations of Pokemon that just need to be in Sun and Moon? I will be doing every region, so expect Johto, Hoenn, Sinnoh, and so on for all of the regions, and then we can figure out some Mega Pokemon. So if you guys enjoy the video, hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.